I was wrong about my son. I realized it in a resort bathroom in Muskoka, holding what was supposed to be a liability waiver. Standard legal language about kayaking, hiking, assuming risk. The kind of thing you sign without thinking. Except I'd spent 28 years reading contracts, and one page had the wrong font. I'm Margaret Harrison, 58. After my husband Thomas died 2 years ago, I sold my marketing firm for $2.8 million and bought a condo in Oakville for $850,000. Between the sale, Thomas's life insurance of $500,000, and our investment portfolio of $400,000, I had $4.5 million in assets. Comfortable, secure, or so I thought. Because the waiver my son Connor handed me that morning wasn't a waiver at all. It was a reverse mortgage application that would give his wife Vanessa's company immediate access to $680,000 of my home equity, with plans for more to follow. My hands shook as I photographed every page, not from age, from rage. This is how I discovered my only child was trying to rob me. Thomas died of pancreatic cancer in August 2023, 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. In those final weeks, the morphine made him drift, but there were moments of brutal clarity. "Watch Connor," he whispered one night, his hand cold in mine. "Vanessa's changing him, or showing who he really is. Protect yourself, Maggie." I told him he was paranoid. The drugs talking. Connor was our son. Yes, he'd become more money-focused after marrying Vanessa, but that was just maturity, growing up. "Promise me you'll be careful." I promised, but I didn't mean it. Not really. After he died, I sold our Mississauga house, too many memories in every room, and bought the Oakville condo. Paid cash, no mortgage, no debt. Connor started calling every Sunday, always checking in. How was I eating? Managing my finances? Had I thought about simplifying things? "What do you mean simplify?" I asked one Sunday. "Just, Mom. You're handling a lot on your own now. Maybe it would be easier if someone helped. Vanessa knows people who specialize in this. Red flags. I see them now. Didn't see them then. I ran a business for 28 years, Connor. I think I can handle my own finances." "Of course, Mom. We just want to help." We. Not I. We. Connor and Vanessa as a unit. What I didn't know then, Connor was drowning. Later, going through discovery documents, I'd see the full picture. The BMW lease, $1,200 monthly. The Yorkville condo mortgage, $3,800. Vanessa's shopping habit, $2,000. Restaurants, travel, the Instagram lifestyle, another $5,000. Total burn rate, $12,000 per month, $144,000 per year. Connor's salary at his Toronto agency, $95,000. After Ontario taxes, maybe $65,000. That's $5,400 monthly take-home. They were underwater by $6,600 every single month, sinking $79,000 deeper into debt annually. By August 2025, they'd maxed out 8 credit cards totaling $145,000. Minimum payments alone were $3,500 monthly. They were months from bankruptcy. My $4.5 million must have looked like salvation. Here's what kills me. If Connor had just asked, if he'd said, "Mom, I'm in trouble. I made bad financial choices. Can you help?" I might have. A loan with conditions. A bailout with accountability. Because that's what parents do. But he didn't ask. He decided to take. That's the difference between needing help and being a criminal. The invitation came on a Saturday morning in August 2025. Connor showed up at my condo unannounced, Vanessa beside him. She carried a Starbucks tray with 3 coffees and croissants from that expensive French bakery. "We have the most amazing surprise for you," Connor said, hugging me. Vanessa's perfume hit me. Something floral, expensive, the kind that comes in tiny bottles for $300. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through photos of a lakefront resort. Not the touristy parts of Muskoka. This was one of those exclusive places where celebrities hide from photographers. Remember Amanda, my friend from university? She's getting married there next month. Weekend wedding, all inclusive. Mom, we want you to come. Our treat. Connor, that's too expensive. We can afford it. Something in Vanessa's voice made me look at her carefully. She was smiling, but there was calculation behind it. Connor just closed a huge account, and honestly, Mrs. Harrison, you deserve something special after everything you've been through. She never called me Maggie. Always Mrs. Harrison. Always that formal distance. Dad would want you to be happy, Connor added. That's what got me. Dad would want you to be happy. So I said yes. The resort was everything they'd promised, nestled on a private lake, surrounded by pine forests. The kind of place where staff remembered your name and towels appeared twice daily. My room overlooked the water, had a balcony with Muskoka chairs, and a bathroom bigger than my first apartment. Connor and Vanessa arrived an hour after me. They made a show of checking on me, insisting I order anything from room service, asking if the room was comfortable enough. Mom, there's just one tiny thing, Connor said that first evening as we watched the sunset from the main porch. The resort requires all guests to sign a liability waiver for activities, kayaking, hiking, standard legal stuff. I'm not planning on kayaking. I know, Vanessa laughed, but it's policy. Everyone signs regardless. I'll bring the papers by your room tomorrow morning. Super quick, just a signature. Something cold moved in my stomach. Thomas's voice, a whisper from memory. Watch Connor. Protect yourself. I shook it off. This was my son, the little boy who used to bring me dandelions from the backyard, who cried on his first day of kindergarten until I promised to wait by the fence. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my balcony watching the moon on the lake, thinking about Thomas's warnings, about Connor's increasing interest in my finances, about Vanessa's questions about my investments, about how they both kept emphasizing how much they wanted to help, to make my life easier. At 3:00 a.m., I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong until I saw those documents. The next morning, Connor arrived with coffee and pastries and a folder of documents. Just like I said, Mom, super simple. He set everything down on my coffee table. Sign at the bottom of each page. Vanessa already filled in your information to save you time. I put on my reading glasses and pretended to skim, but I read every single word. Page 1 looked legitimate. Resort name, standard liability language. Page 2, the same. Page 3 had different spacing. Page 4, a slightly different font. Pages 5 and 6 were dense legal text with my personal information already filled in. Address, social insurance number, banking details. This wasn't a liability waiver. It was a reverse mortgage application for my Oakville condo. The terms would give Blake Wealth Management, Vanessa's company, immediate access to 80% of my home's equity, $680,000. Monthly payments would be automatically deducted from my account. If I missed payments, they could seize the property. The document was masterfully crafted. A casual reader would see resort paperwork and sign without question. But I'd spent 28 years reviewing contracts. I knew exactly what I was looking at. My hands trembled. I forced them steady. Mom, you okay? Connor leaned forward, concerned, or performing concern. Just tired, old eyes. I smiled at him. This stranger wearing my son's face. Where do I sign? Here, here, and here. He pointed, too eager. I need to use the restroom, too much coffee. Leave these here, I'll finish when I come back. Sure, Mom, take your time. The moment the bathroom door closed, I pulled out my phone, called my sister Diane in Vancouver. Di, I need help, now. Diane connected me with Catherine Brennan, an elder law attorney. By luck, or maybe not luck, Catherine was attending the wedding as the groom's aunt. Within an hour, Catherine was in my room reviewing the photos I'd taken. "This is fraud," she said flatly. "Clear, prosecutable fraud. But we need to be strategic. If we confront them now, they'll claim misunderstanding, that you're a confused widow who forgot what you signed. We need proof of intent. What do you suggest?" "Sign fake copies. I'll have them printed this afternoon. Record your conversations with Connor and Vanessa. Gather evidence. Then at the wedding, we spring the trap." Catherine looked up from her laptop. "But I need you to do something difficult. Play along. Act confused and trusting. Let them think they've won." I thought about my years in marketing, all the negotiations where I'd hidden my real strategy, smiled while deals went south, pretended weakness to gain advantage. I can do that. What do I need? Catherine outlined the plan. Fake documents, a recording device small enough to hide in my pocket, evidence gathering, and at the wedding, a public confrontation they'd never see coming. That afternoon, I played the role perfectly. Happy mother at the wedding rehearsal, complimenting decorations, telling stories about Connor as a child, back when I thought I knew who he was. Connor kept putting his arm around my shoulders, performing for an audience. Each touch made my skin crawl. "I'm so glad you're here," he said during a break. "Dad would have loved this place." He would have. Then, carefully, "You know, Connor, I've been thinking about what you said, about simplifying my finances. Maybe you're right. Maybe I should let someone help." His eyes actually lit up, like a slot machine hitting jackpot. "Really, Mom? Because Vanessa could definitely—" "Not right now," I interrupted gently. "After the wedding. Let's enjoy this weekend first. But yes, I think I'm ready to start letting go of some things." Connor hugged me. "That's great, Mom. Really great. You won't regret this." The recording device in my pocket captured every word. That evening was the rehearsal dinner. White tablecloths, expensive wine. I was seated between Connor and a woman named Patricia Sullivan, a friend of the groom's family. Halfway through the second course, Patricia mentioned she'd recently sold her auto dealership. "We're looking into investments," she said. "Vanessa gave us information about a fund she manages. Very impressive returns." My blood went cold. "She mentioned you've been working with her firm for years," Patricia continued. "Said she's helped you substantially since your husband passed." Connor stiffened beside me. "Did she?" I kept my voice neutral. "That's interesting." Vanessa appeared at my elbow. "Just conservative options for their retirement, Mrs. Harrison. Thought I'd help since we're celebrating together." "Always helpful," I said. Something flickered in Vanessa's eyes. Suspicion? Recognition that I wasn't quite as confused as I was pretending? After dinner, I excused myself early. In my room, I called Catherine. "They're hunting. Another couple here, the Sullivans. Vanessa's already working on them. I'll find them. Margaret, this is good. More victims means a stronger case, but be careful." I wasn't just being careful. I was being calculated. Late that night, I went to the resort's business center. Empty at 11 p.m., just me and the quiet hum of computers. I searched Blake Wealth Management, professional website, corporate address, registration numbers. Everything looked legitimate on the surface. Then I dug deeper. The company had been registered 3 times in 5 years under slightly different names. Blake Financial Solutions. Established 2020. Dissolved 2021. Operated 16 months. Blake Wealth Advisors. Established 2022. Dissolved 2023. Operated 18 months. Blake Wealth Management. Established 2024. Currently active. Same structure. Same tactics. Different legal entity each time. Just long enough to collect investments. Just short enough to disappear before lawsuits. I found reviews from 5 people who'd lost money. Stories identical to what Patricia had almost fallen for. Professional presentations, then losses blamed on market conditions. I printed everything. Then I searched for Thomas's name. That's when I found it. A trust document dated January 2023, 7 months before he died. Thomas had contacted Howard Chen, a lawyer, and created a protective trust. My condo couldn't be sold, mortgaged, or encumbered without Howard's approval as trustee. Any suspicious activity would trigger immediate legal review. Thomas had protected me from beyond the grave. I sat in that empty business center and cried. Not quiet tears, huge, shaking sobs from somewhere deep in my chest. He'd known. He'd tried to tell me. And when I wouldn't listen, when I'd dismissed his warnings as morphine paranoia, he'd protected me anyway. I pulled myself together, printed the trust documents, returned to my room. The documents Connor and Vanessa had me sign were void. They couldn't touch my property. The trust made sure of that, but they didn't know that yet, which meant tomorrow at the wedding, they'd be celebrating what they thought was a successful con, and that's when we'd take them down. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. Blue skies, gentle breeze off the lake, the kind of day that makes you believe in happy endings. I knew better. The ceremony was scheduled for 6 p.m. on a wooden platform built over the water. I spent the afternoon preparing. Catherine had coached me on what to expect, who would be there, how it would unfold. "Stay calm," she'd said. "Let them have their moment. Then we'll have ours." I wore a navy dress, simple jewelry, the appearance of a proud mother at her son's friend's wedding. I smiled at guests, made small talk, watched Connor and Vanessa work the room like the professionals they were. At one point, I saw Vanessa talking to Patricia Sullivan by the bar, saw her pull out her phone, showing something, performance charts probably, projected returns, the same pitch she'd used on others. Patricia was nodding, interested. Her husband, David, stood beside her, asking questions. They had no idea they were being hunted. The ceremony itself was beautiful. The bride wore ivory silk. The groom cried during his vows. Everything was Instagram perfect. I sat in the third row, watching my son beside his wife, and I couldn't reconcile the smiling man in the expensive suit with the person who'd tried to steal my home. During the reception, Connor was in his element, shaking hands, laughing, charming everyone. This was the son I remembered, charismatic, engaging, successful. Except now I knew the truth. I knew the BMW outside was leased. The Yorkville condo was mortgaged to the breaking point. The confident smile was a mask over $145,000 in credit card debt. Everything was performance. Speeches started at 8 p.m. Best man, maid of honor, parents of the bride and groom, sweet stories, inside jokes, the usual wedding fare. Then Connor stood up. He wasn't in the wedding party, but he'd arranged a surprise toast. Of course he had. "I just want to say," he began, his voice warm and practiced, "how much it means to have everyone here, especially my mom, Margaret." He gestured toward me. "Mom, can you stand up?" Everyone turned. I stood, uncomfortable, feeling exposed. My mom lost my dad 2 years ago. Thomas Harrison was an incredible man, and I just want everyone to know that Vanessa and I consider it our privilege to look after her now. Connor's voice caught perfectly, right on cue. "Family takes care of family. To Mom, may you always know you're loved and protected." The room applauded. People smiled at me with sympathy and warmth. Vanessa was dabbing her eyes with a napkin. I sat down, my face burning. Catherine Brennan stood up next. If I might add something, her voice carried across the reception hall. Every conversation stopped. "I'm Catherine Brennan, aunt of the groom. I'm also a lawyer specializing in elder law." The room went quiet. That particular quiet where everyone knows something important is about to happen. I saw Connor's smile freeze. Saw Vanessa's eyes go sharp and calculating. I'd like to second Connor's sentiment about family protecting family, Catherine continued, which is why I want to share something with everyone here. She let the pause extend. Build tension. Yesterday, Margaret Harrison signed documents provided by her son Connor and daughter-in-law Vanessa. Documents she was told were resort liability waivers. Another pause. They were not. They were reverse mortgage applications designed to seize her home and access $680,000 in equity. Gasps rippled through the room. Shocked whispers. The bride's mother stood up, confused. Someone dropped a glass. This morning, Catherine's voice stayed level, professional. I contacted 3 other families at this wedding who were approached by Vanessa Blake Harrison about investment opportunities. She let that sink in, let people look around, wondering who else had been targeted. The Morrison family lost $180,000 to Vanessa's previous company in 2023. The Chen family lost $215,000 in 2022. The Sullivan family, Patricia and David, who are sitting right there, were scheduled to invest $250,000 next week. Patricia Sullivan's hand went to her mouth. David's face went white. Additionally, I've been in contact with the Ontario Securities Commission and the RCMP. They've been investigating Blake Wealth Management for systematic fraud. The evidence Margaret gathered over the past 2 days was the final piece they needed. The room erupted, guests talking over each other, the groom's father shouting, the bride starting to cry. 2 men in dark suits entered through the main doors. Not guests, officers. Vanessa bolted. She actually ran, pushing through the crowd in her designer dress and heels, heading for the side exit. But James Morrison was there, the retired RCMP officer who'd lost $180,000, who'd warned me at the dock 2 days ago. He stepped into her path. Vanessa tried to dodge. James was faster. She went down hard on the polished hardwood floor, James's knee in her back, her arms being pulled behind her. She was screaming about her lawyer, about rights, about mistakes and misunderstandings. The bride was sobbing. Guests were standing, phones out, recording. The perfect wedding had imploded in minutes. Connor turned to me, his face white, hands shaking. "Mom." His voice cracked. "Mom, I didn't know. You have to believe me. I thought." "You thought what, Connor?" I stood up. The room quieted again, everyone watching this confrontation. That a liability waiver needs my social insurance number, my banking information. Vanessa said it was just paperwork to help you manage. Don't. I stepped closer. You handed me those papers. You smiled. You brought me coffee and pastries like we were having a nice mother-son morning. You watched me sign away my home. His face crumpled. Real tears now, or maybe just fear. Mom, we're drowning. The condo, the cars, everything. I didn't have a choice. You had a choice. You chose your BMW over your mother. You chose Yorkville over integrity. You looked at your widowed parent and saw an ATM instead of a person. But I'm your son. No. The word came out cold. Final. My son died with his father. You're just someone wearing his face. An officer moved toward Connor. Sir, we need you to come with us for questioning. Connor reached for me. Mom, please. I'm still your son. You can't just... I stepped back. Watch me. They led Vanessa away in handcuffs, still screaming. Connor went with the officers, looking back at me with desperate eyes. I didn't look away. I wanted him to see exactly what he'd lost. Catherine touched my arm. You okay? No, I said, but I will be. The trial took 6 months. I'll spare you most of the legal details, the depositions, the motions, the endless procedural delays, but I'll tell you about the day that mattered. Connor's lawyer had spent weeks painting me as controlling, manipulative, paranoid. They claimed Thomas's trust was created under undue influence from pain medication, that I'd manipulated my dying husband into disinheriting our son, that the whole thing was a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by a vindictive mother who couldn't accept her son's independence. They made me sound like a monster. Then Catherine played Thomas's video testimony. The courtroom lights dimmed. A screen descended. And there was my husband, recorded a week before he died, in August 2023. He was gaunt, oxygen tube under his nose, but his eyes were clear and focused. "My name is Thomas Harrison. Today is August 10th, 2023. I'm recording this because I'm dying and I need to protect my wife." His voice was steady despite the rasp of damaged lungs. "Over the past year, I've watched my son Connor change, or maybe I'm finally seeing who he's always been. His wife Vanessa is a con artist. I've done the research. I've seen the pattern of dissolved companies, the victims, the carefully constructed schemes. And I've watched Connor enable it, participate in it, benefit from it." On screen, Thomas paused to catch his breath. Maggie doesn't want to see it. She loves Connor too much. She raised him, sacrificed her career trajectory for him, and she can't accept that he might not be the person we thought he was. So I'm doing what I should have done months ago. I'm setting up a trust to protect her. Thomas looked directly into the camera, directly at me, even though he'd been dead for 2 years. "If you're watching this, Maggie, Connor made his move. I'm sorry I saw it before you did. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you directly. You would have argued, tried to fix things, given him another chance. But some people can't be fixed. They can only be protected against." His hand, thin and marked with IV bruises, reached toward the camera. "Don't feel guilty. You were a good mother. Connor made his own choices. Trust Howard Chen. Protect yourself. I love you." The video ended. The courtroom sat in absolute silence. I was crying. I didn't care who saw. The verdicts came 2 days later. Vanessa Blake Harrison, guilty on all counts. 3 years in federal prison, $450,000 in restitution orders to victims, permanent revocation of all financial services licenses. The judge's words were harsh. Ms. Blake Harrison showed a callous disregard for vulnerable victims, targeting elderly individuals through family connections. Her sophisticated schemes were designed to appear legitimate, while systematically defrauding people of their life savings. This court finds her actions particularly egregious, given the breach of familial trust involved. Connor's criminal case was different. The prosecution couldn't prove he knew the full extent of Vanessa's schemes. He wasn't charged with fraud. But the civil case? My countersuit against his lawsuit demanding his rightful inheritance. That was another story. The judge ruled that while Connor might not have known every detail of Vanessa's operations, he was, at minimum, willfully blind. He'd brought me fraudulent documents, pressured me to sign, and failed to perform even basic due diligence on his wife's business practices. Connor's lawsuit against me was dismissed. He was ordered to pay $75,000 of my legal fees. But the real punishment came after the verdicts. I'd spent 28 years building a network in Toronto's marketing industry. I knew people, agency heads, board members, hiring managers, people who owed me favors or who'd competed against me and respected my work. I made phone calls, not many, just enough. "Did you hear about that elder abuse case? The reverse mortgage fraud?" "Yes, terrible situation. The son was involved, Connor Harrison. He works at..." "Oh, which agency is it?" "Yes, that one. Anyway, I'm sure it was all a misunderstanding. These things happen. I never said Connor was guilty. I never had to. I just asked questions, expressed concern, mentioned the trial was public record if anyone wanted details. Connor was asked to resign within 3 weeks of the verdict. Not fired. Asked to resign. Much cleaner that way. I reported Vanessa to every regulatory body I could find. The Ontario Securities Commission, the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, the Better Business Bureau. Not because it would change her prison sentence, but because I wanted a permanent record. I wanted anyone who Googled her name for the next 20 years to find exactly what she was. I donated $500,000 from Thomas's estate to the Elder Abuse Prevention Fund, in his name. They put up a plaque at their Toronto office. Thomas Harrison, protector and advocate. I kept the rest, the Oakville condo, the remaining $2.3 million in investments, my company sale money, untouched. Everything Thomas had protected for me. Connor tried to contact me twice in the first month after the trial. I blocked his number. Then he tried email. I set up a filter to automatically delete anything from his address. My sister Diane asked me once if I thought I was being too harsh. "He's your son, Maggie." "He was my son," I corrected. "The person he is now, that's someone who looked at his widowed mother and saw an ATM. That's someone who brought fraudulent documents to my room with a smile and coffee. That's not someone I want in my life." Diane didn't push it. She'd seen the documents. She'd watched the trial. She understood. I heard through mutual acquaintances, there are always mutual acquaintances, that Connor divorced Vanessa while she was in prison. Smart move financially, separating his assets before her restitution orders could touch them. He moved to Vancouver, found work at a small marketing agency making maybe $65,000 a year, a massive step down from the six-figure Toronto lifestyle he'd built on other people's money. No BMW, no Yorkville condo, no designer-dressed wife, just a regular life that he could actually afford. Vanessa served 2 years of her 3-year sentence with good behavior, got out 4 months ago. I don't know where she is now, don't care. Her business licenses are revoked permanently. Her name is poison in financial circles. Whatever she does next, it won't be managing other people's money. The last I heard, Connor was living with a roommate in Vancouver, still trying to rebuild his career, still dealing with the debt that had driven him to try stealing from me in the first place. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about me, if he regrets what he did, or just regrets getting caught. I suspect it's the latter. 2 years have passed since that wedding in Muskoka. I'm 60 years old now. I still live in the Oakville condo, the one Thomas protected. Every month, I walk past the mortgage-free deed framed on my office wall, a reminder that I'm safe, that I survived, that the people who tried to destroy me failed. I started a consulting business. Nothing big, just me helping other people my age navigate financial planning and spot red flags in too-good-to-be-true opportunities. I charge reasonable rates. Sometimes I don't charge at all if I can tell someone's struggling. It's not about the money. It's about making sure what happened to me doesn't happen to someone else. Every Wednesday morning, I have coffee with a group we jokingly call the Survivors. James Morrison, the retired RCMP officer who lost $180,000 to Vanessa. Patricia Sullivan, who almost invested $250,000 before Catherine's revelation saved her. Catherine Brennan herself, who's become one of my closest friends. Sometimes others join us. People who've been through similar situations with their own families. Adult children who saw parents as retirement funds. Relatives who confused inheritance with entitlement. We share stories, warn each other about new scams, and remind ourselves that we're not alone in this particular kind of grief. Because it is grief. The loss of the relationship you thought you had. The death of the person you believed your child to be. That loss is real, even when the person is still alive. James understands that better than most. He's become something like a brother to me. Not romantic, nothing like that, but the kind of friendship that comes from surviving the same battle. We check in on each other, make sure neither of us is isolating, remind each other that trust is still possible, just more carefully placed. Last month, Connor tried to contact me again. Not directly. He knows I've blocked him everywhere, but through Diane. She called me on a Sunday morning. "Maggie, Connor reached out. He wanted me to tell you he's sorry, that he's learned from his mistakes, that he hopes eventually you two can talk." I was silent for a long moment. What should I tell him? Diane asked. Tell him I got his message. Tell him I hope he's learned something from this experience. And tell him I have nothing more to say to him, now or ever. That's final? That's final. Some relationships, once broken, can't be repaired. This is one of them. Diane accepted that. She's seen what I went through. She sat through parts of the trial. She understands that forgiveness isn't always the right answer, and that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away permanently. Connor sent a second message through her a week later, asked if I'd at least consider meeting him for coffee in a few years. Maybe when enough time had passed. My answer was the same. No. Not because I'm cruel, not because I can't let go of anger, but because Connor has never once actually apologized for what he did. He's apologized for getting caught, for the consequences he's facing, for how things turned out, but he's never said, Mom, I was wrong to try to steal from you. I was wrong to value money over our relationship. I was wrong to look at your vulnerability as an opportunity. Until he can say that, and mean it, there's nothing to discuss. And honestly, I don't think he ever will. People who can look at their widowed parent and see a mark instead of a person don't suddenly develop a conscience. They just learn to hide better. I went to Thomas's grave last week on what would have been our 35th wedding anniversary, brought yellow roses, the ones he always loved, and sat on the bench nearby. You were right about everything, Tom, I said out loud. I don't care if people think I'm crazy, talking to a headstone. I should have listened. I was too busy being a mother to see I didn't have a son anymore. I had a liability. A breeze moved through the cemetery, rustling the maple leaves overhead. But you knew. You protected me even when I wouldn't protect myself. The trust, the video, all of it. You gave me exactly what I needed to survive this. I touched the cold granite of his headstone. I made them pay, Tom. Every single one of them. Vanessa's in prison. Connor's career is destroyed. They lost everything. I sat there for another hour, just thinking. About trust and betrayal. About the distance between who we want people to be and who they actually are. About how love can make you blind, but wisdom can help you see again. People ask me sometimes what I learned from all this. They expect some profound wisdom about trust or family or forgiveness. Here's what I learned. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone go. I learned that you can do everything right. Be a good parent, provide opportunities, teach values, and still end up with a child who disappoints you. That's not your failure. That's their choice. I learned that grief has layers. First, I grieved Thomas. Then I had to grieve the son I thought I had, the relationship I thought we'd built. That second grief was harder because Connor is still alive, just dead to me. But mostly I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. When Thomas was dying, I was terrified of being alone, terrified I wouldn't be capable or strong enough to manage everything by myself. Turns out, I'm more than capable. I built a business. I caught a con. I protected my assets. I fought back against people who thought I was an easy target because I was a widow. I'm 60 years old. I have good friends, a secure home, and enough money to live comfortably. I have my independence, my self-respect, and the knowledge that I stood up for myself when it mattered most. And I have Thomas's voice in my head, not as a ghost or a burden, but as a reminder. Watch carefully. Protect yourself. Trust, but verify. He was right about everything. I was wrong about my son, and I don't mean that in a good way. But I'm right about myself. I'm right about the life I've built. I'm right about the boundaries I've set. And that's enough. Some bridges deserve to burn. This was one of them. I sleep well at night knowing I made the right choice. Not the easy choice, the right one. That's the difference between being weak and being wise. And after 60 years, I've finally learned the difference.